What's going on, fight fans? This is Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Rob Jarrell, and this is the preview to this weekend's UK heavyweight tilt in a rematch with Tony Bellew fighting David Haye. Hakeem's going to do the preview for the HBO broadcast for Gennady Triple G Golovkin versus Bonas Martirosyan. But this one, Tony Bellew versus David the Haymaker Haye. The first matchup was pretty good until David Haye suffered an injury to, I believe, his Achilles. Feel free to fact check that one because I can't remember. But I know it was an injury to his leg in which he was pretty much hobbled from mid-sixth round on to the end, which I believe was about the 10th round. It was a pretty decent fight, which I found that David Haye was winning on the scorecards, but not necessarily dominating Bellew how I thought he would. Which is still, again, pretty interesting because Haye is, well, both guys moved up from cruiserweight. That was Tony Bellew's first fight at heavyweight, and David Haye had been campaigning at heavyweight for about 3 or 4 years at the time after becoming the cruiserweight champion. So we had ex-cruiserweight champions fighting each other. And what we got was a pretty competitive fight. I just thought David Haye was beating him to the punch. Bellew is a really underrated boxer, and I think he's an underrated puncher. He's had some really good wins at cruiserweight. I think his only real loss was to Adonis Stevenson at 175. And I don't think he had a loss at cruiserweight after he became champion. So I think this one is still going to be pretty interesting. I personally thought that Bellew made a good showing of himself. He took advantage of the injury, which, let's be honest, you're supposed to do. That's just how it's supposed to shake out. But David Haye, I want to say in those first roughly 5-6 rounds, I thought after he calmed down in the first round, which it just seemed like he was putting everything into his punches, and he would get countered with the right hand by Bellew, especially when David Haye threw that left hook. He was able to counter with the right hand and take advantage of David Haye overcommitting to the punch. But once David Haye settled down, started working the jab, he wasn't getting hit as flush and he wasn't getting countered as bad. Still think Tony Bellew did a really good job of staying mobile, not sitting down in one place, utilizing the 1-2, especially toward the body. But David Haye started to kind of flick out his own jab to set up his punches instead of just swinging for the fences. I mean, he's quick, but I don't think David Haye is super athletic. And he's heavily muscled, and unfortunately, I think he's been coming into fights way too heavy. I think he's been coming in around 230 or more, which I think his best weight to fight at might be about 215. It makes him smaller, but it makes him quicker, and it makes him fast, and I think the conditioning for him will be much better. I don't know what he's going to come in at. I'll check the weigh-in later. But if he comes in healthy and doesn't injure himself again, because David Haye, I think it's just the muscle and how much power he puts into each punch. He constantly gets hurt. We're talking about shoulder injury, bicep injury. I think he's had a toe injury versus Klitschko, the Achilles injury, and one more, but he's constantly injured, so he doesn't fight often. And then when he does fight, it's against less than desirable competition for a guy of his caliber. So I think he comes into this fight, he comes in healthy. I hope he comes in lighter, because anything over 230, honestly, anything over 225 to me is just too big for him. I think he's just more explosive when he's not just dragging his feet and having to jump in. He's taking away a lot from himself. And I don't care what anyone says. They have David Haye listed as 6'3", and they have Tony Bellew listed as 6'2", 6'3". And Tony Bellew is at least an inch or two taller than David Haye. David Haye's either 6'1", or Tony Bellew's either 6'5", and I'm 6'4", and he looks huge to me. So we have to see. And Tony Bellew needs to come in better shape. I mean, at the higher weights, he looks a bit chunky. I'm not saying he's the most ripped guy in the world. He's never been that. But I need him to come in better shape. I think David Haye continues what he was doing. I think he got a lot of praise for his toughness in that first fight by fighting back. And at a certain point, that injury just became too much. he probably needs to take yoga to try to stretch out those muscles and not get injured. Because when he got injured, it was just stepping back. It wasn't on a punch. It wasn't him exploding forward. It was literally he's stepping back out of firing range and just pop. I think David Haye might get the decision. I can't see him knocking him out. But if he continues to box and set up his punches instead of swinging wildly, I think he has a good chance to beat Bellew. But Bellew, I think he remains as a boxer who has really short arms for his height. I mean, if he's 6'3", they said he has a 74-inch reach. That's crazy because I have an 80-inch reach from fingertip to fingertip, and I'm 6'4". So that's really wild. I hope if that's the case, then David Haye, I think, has slightly longer arms. He should be able to take advantage of that length by flicking out that jab and working and burying up the jab. So I look for Bellew to time and throw that 1-2 and maybe throw every time that David Haye overcommits to that left, for Bellew to do a slight move to his right and really just throw that right hand down the pipe. Another good thing that I saw from David Haye in that first fight was his ability to slip. If he's right, he kind of, instead of slipping to the outside of Bellew's jab, he slips to the right and throws that hook. Now, if he could throw the counter left hook off of Bellew's jab, I think he has a great chance to catch him. So, and he kind of keeps his hands low, but he kind of does that to kind of give you, try to trick you with the look to maybe throw that jab so he can, again, slip and counter. That remains to be seen. I don't know how exciting of a fight it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good fight. I think they both come in pretty good shape. And I think whoever wins gets put in a position back into the heavyweight division. I'm not sure that either one can win a belt in the division between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. And you have Tyson Fury coming back, Dillian White working his way back up, Jarrell Miller getting the win last weekend. You still have Dominic Brazil. I could go on and on. It's just a lot of guys in an exciting heavyweight division, if not a pretty flawed one. It's going to be very hard for them to get any kind of win or any kind of belt in the division. But tell us what you think. This is all I got for you today. Again, reach out to us. You can put anything in the spaces down below. We do talk to anyone who watches. Maybe you could teach us something. Hopefully we can teach you something. We're all for feedback. Hit us up at capitalcombat@gmail.com, Capital Combat at Instagram, Capital Combat at Facebook. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. If you have subscribed, hit the bell icon to get all notifications for our future videos. And then share with your friends. We would like to get more people in on this boxing talk, this boxing discussion. And until next time, fight on.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming.